Survived the night in our little protected anchorage last night, away from the wind and the waves. This morning I woke up and the boat's spun around 180 degrees. So I assume it's calm as could be right now. We're just probably sitting right over the top of the anchor, and it's calm, very calm right now. But we made it. The boat was 64 degrees this morning when I woke up. I was chilly last night. But we're making up for it this morning. We've got coffee in the press. We got bacon finishing up and some pancakes. And we'll have a nice breakfast this morning before we get ready to head out for the next part of our journey. Enjoy. All right, well, we're bidding farewell to our little sheltered anchorage for last night. It served its purpose. Wasn't great, wasn't picturesque by any means, but it served its purpose, which was to keep us out of the crashing waves overnight. We got a little bit of wind this morning, maybe about 5 knots or so, coming from the south, so that should make a good eastern passageway, I think, this morning. So we'll see what happens. We'll plan to head east towards the Indiana Dunes, pretty much where we were yesterday, but see if we can make it all the way to the dunes this time, past Burns Harbor. And we'll say goodbye to our little spot here. Now we know it's there. It's always a good duck out of the wind spot. The only problem with it was, I think, that northeast wind and waves came through this opening and then kind of just created a bit of a waves inside there. They had nowhere to go and bounced around a little bit. The boat would rock and roll a bit last night, but certainly nothing like we would have experienced if we were out anchored off a beach somewhere. So perfectly safe, and we appreciated having a place to hide there. All right, well, we're gonna set out here and get some sails set, and we'll chat with you later. All right, well, just a quick update. If I were to sum up this morning's sail so far, I'd say very slow. We got up at 7, we made breakfast, left the protected little harbor I was in. Very light winds. After a little bit of going almost nowhere in 5 knots, I struck the spinnaker. That had some challenges. It was kind of twisted up towards the top of the sail, and I couldn't get the chute all the way up, the sock to go all the way up. Winds were pretty light at the time. They were out of the south, and I tried that for a while, got frustrated, pulled the chute back down and fired up the motor for a while. Felt like we had a little bit of wind, so I tried pulling the sock back up. Thing was still kind of twisted, and I couldn't get the sock all the way up. Gave up with the spinnaker again, motored a bit, pulled the sock down, and was getting ready to drop the spinnaker to see if I could fix that twist in it. And as soon as I started to let it down, it kind of straightened itself out. So maybe I just had it tensioned too much. Anyway, so then the wind shifted around to the north, so I've now brought the spinnaker around to the other side. Still very light winds, like 5 knots or less, and we're just ghosting along at about 2 knots. There's a little bit of a swell today, so it has been just slapping the sails around a lot, but If it keeps up at 5 knots, I'll probably just ghost my way along to the Indiana Dunes Lakeshore and drop the anchor and spend the day swimming and snorkeling and whatever there. If we pick up some wind, then I'll get out and sail from there. But right now, light winds. I'm flying a spinnaker and just ghosting along pretty slowly. Just got off a half-hour Zoom call with Kathy and her dad and sister. Did one last night with my son and daughter-in-law to be. So kind of love technology. You can be sitting out here and still communicating. So anyway, we'll have more update as this slow day progresses. All right, well, it's hour later. Things have picked up very nicely. We've got about 8-9 knots of wind. Spinnaker's filled out nicely. We've picked up a little speed. We're pushing 4 to 5 knots, and it's just so much nicer. Got a big ship out there. He's been sitting there for a while. Doesn't seem to be moving. And I thought there was one coming out of the Burns Harbor, which is about where I'm headed. So trying to watch out for that guy. Anyway, we got a chair here, getting some rays, enjoying the sunshine and the warmth, and finally moving a little bit with 9 knots of wind and 4.7 knots of boat speed. Feels so much better than it did before. So we're just letting auto do the work. Listening to some music, keeping an eye on the horizon there a little bit, and making our way to the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore. We're about 2 miles out. I'm sorry, we're 7 miles out. And should be there around 2 o'clock. It's a long lake shore. We might pull up short if our tack takes us shorter distance. That's fine. We'll go as far as the wind will let us go, probably without having to tack. Just tacking a spinnaker, my spinnaker, is a pain in the keister, so we'll see where it leads us. I suppose we could pull the spinnaker down, and with 9 knots we could fly the jib now. But we'll run this big boy spinnaker as long as we can until we have to tack. It's a beautiful sail. All right, well, next chapter in the adventure here, we are anchored off the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore. We're in about 10 feet of water right now. Sandy bottom. I dove down there a little bit. It's sandy and it looks like the anchor's holding very well. It's a little choppier right now than I thought. The wind was supposed to be east or southeast, but it's northeast. So we're just hanging out here and just took a swim, cool off, dove on the anchor a little. Everything looks good. I'm gonna dry off and have a drink, I think, and get some dinner ready to put on the barbecue tonight. And yeah, so hopefully the waves subside a little bit. Otherwise, the Michigan City Harbor, or Michigan City Marina, is that way about 10 miles. We're back home, but that's 20 some miles probably. So I'm expecting or hoping that tonight the waves subside a little bit, but we got a couple hours to decide. It's mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock maybe. So I will let you know what else is going on. Well, here we are having dinner tonight on the Anchorage on Tally Ho. So we've got a steak, some rice, and some beans, and of course a little vino to go with it. So we cooked the rice on the stove, threw the steak and a can of beans on the barbecue on the rail out here. We remove it when we're sailing and not using it, but you know, does the trick. Just have it plumbed into our spare propane tank we take out and use it. So we're still bucking a little bit of choppiness out here, but it's I think settling down a little bit. Winds tonight are supposed to pick up, but they're supposed to shift around to the south, so that'd be okay with me. So we're gonna have a little dinner and catch up with you later. Well, it's gonna be I think a little bit of a rocky and rolly night tonight, unless the wind clocks around to the south like it's supposed to. So right now we've got 13 knots of wind, which is you know, a little bit higher than I was hoping for. Sea state's a little bit choppy. Anchor's holding fine, no problem, but 14 knots. Really? Now around midnight, or maybe a little before midnight, it's supposed to come around to the south. It has moved a little bit. I just put my compass on my phone down here, and that way I can keep an eye on it. It was about 60 degrees, so it certainly has come around some. We're now about 90, almost 100 degrees. So I guess if it keeps clocking around to the south, maybe it'll be better. I'm not really worried about dragging the anchor, you know, at this point. If I did, I would just drift down the beach a bit further. I'm in plenty deep water, you know, for a while here. But I was hoping with a south wind it would help knock the waves down a bit and be a lot more comfortable. So it's only 7 o'clock, so we got some time. With any luck at all, it'll continue to come around and take some of the chop down and all that. So it's about 75 degrees in the cabin. Very breezy. I put a screen on the front hatch, and I closed it most of the way. It's still open, giving us a breeze in here for now. It's a little warm in the aft cabin where I'm going to sleep. So we're getting a little airflow through. Anyway, that's about it for now. We're listening to the Cubs game on the radio. Gotta love Sirius Radio and the Sirius XM app. So I can play it on my phone. I have a Bluetooth connector thing for the stereo, so I can listen to it on the stereo. I actually have a Sirius XM radio, a very old one. I found it on the boat after I bought it. Works fine, but it's the old, you know, it's an old one, and it doesn't have all the channels that you get on the XM app or on a new car. New car. Cubs are on 844, and there is no 844 on this little radio, but that's okay. Works great, you know, just for listening to my regular stuff. Got the VHF off, don't need to hear a bunch of crap on there. Garmin's off. Haven't turned an anchor light on yet, but I will. Then as you see, we're, you know, if this is accurate, I used the autopilot a lot today. I've had the fridge on all day, and it says we're still at 99% capacity, 211 amp hours in the batteries, if it's accurate. And right now it says, you know, we're not using much, 0 watts or half an amp, 0.05 amps, which is basically the stereo. Fridge is on, but if it's not running, it isn't really drawing anything much. I am charging my iPhone, so not a lot on, but if that's true, and we still have 211 amp hours out of a 215 amp hour battery, that's pretty good. I did run the motor today some, so that would have replenished it some, but I probably sailed the last couple hours with the autopilot on and never started the engine to anchor. I was able to sail right up here, drop the sail, throw the anchor, drop the anchor off, and that was it. Didn't even start the engine. So anyway, we'll see. One problem with not running the motor is I didn't have any hot water. So when that's the case, like this morning and tonight, I just fill that boiler thing up with water and heat it up on the stove when I'm cooking, and then I pour that into the sink and then top it off with cold water to get a nice warm temperature, and I can wash dishes with it. So that's how I manage the hot water situation when I'm not running the engine or on shore power. All right, well, I'll have a little update later maybe when it gets dark, but for now we're hanging in there, trying to pray for a south wind. And it looks like we're going to get there. I mean, if you can see that, we're now to 125 degrees. So if we're lucky, it'll keep clocking around, and pretty soon we'll have a much more comfortable sleep. All right, more later. Well, they don't know that you can see a whole lot here, but it's 8 o'clock, getting ready for bed, and I got a couple of candles going so I don't have to burn up my battery with lights. Winds are down to 7 knots, but they're still about 90 degrees. I need them to be coming out of the south. Got an anchor light on up there. It's probably hard to see, and it's all pretty quiet, but still very rolly. So if that wind doesn't come around to the south, it'll probably be a very rolly night tonight. But we will give it the old college try. Get up early tomorrow. It's supposed to be a south wind, and that should carry us home nicely on a beam reach tomorrow. So day 2 of our adventure is closing out. One more to go. Well, good morning. So we're just checking out the battery power here.